Biblical Manhood is Lacking in the American Church. I'm your host, Eli Maxon, and this is episode 9 of Illustrator Diaries. The other day I was watching a movie by the name The Forge. I didn't take time to go back and see who directed the movie, but I'll have, the trailer in the link below if you want to check it out. I know it's on Netflix, that's why I happened to watch it. There were certain parts in the movie that were pretty cheesy, not gonna lie. But the central theme around the movie was discipleship and being around a community of brothers and this young man being shaped into a man of God, right? The community aspect of it was really my largest takeaway, as I do feel and have seen and witnessed growing up in the church and in different, I guess you would say, denominational circles, that discipleship, especially for men, is something that is at a deficit, at least in my experience. And one way I feel that the movie helped to tackle this, I was actually talking to my wife about it the other day, was there was a life group in this movie. So a life group, if you're not familiar with the church or you haven't really been in or around those circles, is when, you're doing life with people. Like, you're meeting up with people, whether that's every week, once a month, every 2 weeks, whatever, right? And those conversations are deeply intentional on growing spiritually, and those things being expressed through your craft, your work, pretty much just everything outside of the four walls of the local church. Like, it should extend out into the community. We should be a light, on the hill, in the midst of darkness. Like, how is that character built? And one thing, well, I wouldn't even say one thing, a couple things that I do want to cover from that, just to kind of add a little bit more clarity. So the lead mentor happened to be a manager for a fitness warehouse, and his need, not his need, but the lead character's need, who was kind of like the apprentice in a way, was he was just trying to get a job so that he could pay his mother. But little did he know the manager would be a mentor, not only like as far as him growing career wise, but more importantly spiritually. And this is, funny enough, something that I'm learning in my life now as I'm 25, is we could seek everything in the world and we could be successful in the world and pay the bills, and I wouldn't say like career wise I'm at where I want to be, but my job is providing for my family, and this season has been very difficult. But one thing that I like that the mentor happened to mention was the fact that your career, your worldly success is your worldly wins, because I guess he was a very, very, not was, but he still is in the movie, a very successful businessman. Obviously, he's the owner of this warehouse, and I guess portion. I think it's not just a warehouse; it's his company, right? And he makes calls with big players in the movie, consolidation and logistics and stuff like that. But he knows that success isn't what defines him, and there's a part in the movie that I'm not going to spoil, but a big loss that him and his wife happen to have, helps him to kind of come to that realization. Then there's a character that really doesn't deserve any grace from him, as he did something wrong to him, but yet we see that the Lord works through him to help lead this individual to him. I know that sounded like very redundant, so him. The Lord utilized this manager to lead someone who did wrong to him back to God, right? And this young man is witnessing all of this and is a part of this group, doesn't have a father in the home, and just seeing how this life group was kind of put together is really what I wanted to get to. It was a group of older men who were well seasoned, well established in their faith. This actually connects to another famous Christian movie War Room. So I guess you could say it's somewhat of a hybrid sequel, as it isn't a direct sequel to it, but it's more or less in the same universe. And one of the main characters who actually, I wouldn't even say he was a villain in the movie, but he was kind of like the piece that God was trying to reach the most in the previous movie. He was in this group, and he was actually related to the main character, who is in his late teens. He's like 19 years old. The older gentleman from War Room, I think he's like in his 40s. He has a family, of course, and he's taking his faith more seriously. So you have older men in this group, and then you have, younger college age, and I would assume some probably were in high school or below. And the church, in my honest opinion, I haven't really witnessed a particular group to this degree. If anything, it's like a co-ed, so we have of course men and women, but like we're all around the same age. I think of Timothy and Titus, and a lot of the epistles when it talks about how we're to learn from our elders, and just kind of be soaked in that experience of what they may have went through, so that we can avoid it spiritually, being malnourished, in the sense that like they've been through seasons that we haven't witnessed yet, and there's a sense of wisdom that we can gather from people that are older that we can't from peers that are the same age. Even though we may be wise in our own right, there's a sense of wisdom that is only attainable through us being around individuals from different generations. And that's one thing that I loved about this movie. And I think it needs to be better, how can I say this, better implemented in the local church. And the way that the movie ends off, it doesn't end where it's like, hey, like we're, going to stay in this group. It's like, no, go out and be the church. Go out and, be an extension of what principles we happen to lay out here, and find those people within those environments that you happen to work in. And it isn't one of those, like, because I've seen cheesy Christian movies before. Like I said, this movie had some cheesy stuff, but for the most part, I would give it like an 8 out of 10 solid, as far as like the plot wasn't missed. The plot of this movie really was manhood, sorting your finances, being on time, making sure that you're prioritizing God above all else, and making that manifest in everything that you happen to do, whether that's your work, craft, avoiding distractions if they're getting in the way of your time with the Lord. Not to the degree of it being legalism, which if you guys want me to cover, I'm actually going to cover legalism in a future video, as I happen to experience it directly. And that also in part was due to me not having a mentor or somebody who could disciple me during the big pandemic, right? So yeah, there's just so much from this movie that I could talk about. I feel like I was kind of all over the place. Of course, the reference for this video is the main character from the movie. And like I said before, I'm going to have the trailer in the description if you want to check it out. It's available on Netflix. But yeah, let me know what you all think. I want to hear specifically from men who are creatives, like, how do you think manhood could be better handled or better represented in the church? And if you have any stories on, positives and negatives, I'd love to hear it. Your host, Eli Maxon, and I'm out.